Hello and welcome to the Center for Military Modernization, Warrior Maven. I'm Chris Osborne. The world remains fixed on the tragic and significant situation continuing to unfold in Ukraine. We have some important perspective today from a great American, retired Lieutenant Colonel Scott Rutter. Now, he spearheaded a specific attack with the 3rd Infantry Division during Operation Iraqi Freedom, and he helped destroy the Iraqi Republican Guard at that famous Baghdad airport battle. So we want to welcome Senior Land War Analyst from the Center for Military Modernization and Warrior Maven, Mr. Scott Rutter.
Glad to be on board, Chris, again. Thanks.
Thank you very much. If we listed his credentials, we'd be here all day, but he also does a lot of advocacy for children who lost their parents due to war, is the CEO of the Valor Network. Now, it's tough to think of people who know more about weapons and land war and have the experience that you do. So I have to ask you, one of the things I was just thinking about is this experience with the Ukrainians. Obviously, tactics are a big part of it, but is it raising the question, not that tanks would ever be obsolete, that's too strongly put, but the idea that tanks are more vulnerable in armored warfare than may have been anticipated, given the success of these shoulder-fired anti-armor weapons. And the last thing I would add to that is how many of the Russia's 12,000 tanks are modernized, T-72s, T-90s. A lot of them have to be older and potentially more vulnerable. But are we seeing a dynamic here about the gradual decrease of significance and impact of the tank?
All good statements. I think the problem that the Russians have is the lack of combined arms warfare. In order to synchronize the efforts of artillery, their observation and reconnaissance plan, surveillance, our R&S plan, as well as the other enablers, the air defense, the engineering, in order to synchronize their actual attack in order to get it. Let's face it, a tank out there completely alone, without dismounted infantry, without part of a combined arms operation, is an accident waiting to happen. That's the biggest fear of any tanker out there, is enemy dismounts out there without a dismounted force that he may have if he's engaging from a tank element. When we were going to Iraq, when we were stationary, when we were going to Baghdad, when we were stationary, we became extremely vulnerable. And at that point, you have to keep up the momentum. You have to be able to adapt and react, to use those enablers, and I'm talking from the Russian front, in order to do that combined arms maneuver, which they have failed to have executed so far to date.
Gosh, sir, we could talk all day with the importance of these issues, but I have to ask you, we all heard about the Gulf War tank battles and how famously the Abrams did. How did tanks in your unit do against the Iraqi T-72s? Weren't they equally successful in OIF?
The M1 against an Iraqi T-72, there was no comparison. The capabilities, the night vision, the mobility, the firepower that exists, and most importantly, the crew and the crew dynamics, for us to be able to take advantage of training systems before we even go out and shoot live fires, was things that brought success. Crew stability, crew working collectively together with their wingman, or working collectively together with dismounts, was the reason for the success in Iraq and other efforts.
You bring up that significant point, which Kirby at the Pentagon mentioned just yesterday, the importance of training Ukrainians to use some of this stuff.